Something that I really struggled with as a student was the Spanish personal a. This idea was difficult to learn because there is no equivalent of the Spanish personal a in English. So in this video, we're going to break down this topic into 3 parts. How to use the personal a, exceptions and tricky examples, what seems to be the toughest part of this topic for students, using the personal a in questions. So let's start with part 1. Now, in order to understand the Spanish personal a, we really need to start off with the basics of a sentence. So if we take a simple sentence, I see my book. This in Spanish is veo mi libro. Now, in this sentence, I am the subject and the book is the object. Now, in Spanish, the personal a comes in when we replace the object of a sentence with a specific person. So if we replace my book with my friend, then in Spanish, we need to add the preposition a. So we get, I see my friend, veo a mi amigo. Veo a mi amigo. And as you can see, there is no equivalent for this word in English. So let's look at a few more examples. I love my wife. Amo a mi esposa. Amo a mi esposa. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe you want to say, I hated someone. So in the past, I hated my husband. This would be, odiaba a mi marido. Odiaba a mi marido.
Odiaba a mi marido.
Or another example, imagine you're trying to do a deal with someone and you want to say something like, if I win, you have to leave Pau in peace. So if I win, you have to leave Pau in peace. Pero si gano, dejas en paz a Pau. Pero si gano, dejas en paz a Pau.
Pero si gano, dejas en paz a Pau.
Okay, now pay close attention as we break this topic down a little further. What if we refer to a person that is not specific, not someone that we can put a name to? So compare these 2 sentences. I need a friend, necesito un amigo, and I need my friend, necesito a mi amigo. Now in the first case, perhaps I'm feeling lonely and I just need a new friend. But since there is no one specific in mind, we don't need the personal a. Now in the second case, I need my friend. I'm thinking of someone very specific, someone that I can name and maybe I have known for years. Now we could repeat this with other examples like, I need a doctor, necesito un médico. Necesito un médico. Or I need our doctor because she has the test results. For example, necesito a nuestra médica. Necesito a nuestra médica. Right, now let's add an important idea. If we have another preposition in our sentence like con or de or para, etc., then we don't use the personal a because we don't want to have 2 prepositions in a row. So for example, I'm going to speak with my boss. Voy a hablar con mi jefe. Voy a hablar con mi jefe. Again, we want to avoid something like voy a hablar con a mi jefe. Those 2 prepositions aren't going to go together in Spanish. Okay, so that's the first part covered. We need the personal a when specific people are the object of the sentence and there is no other preposition. Next, let's look at some exceptions and tricky examples. Now, part of the challenge with the Spanish personal a is that there are weird exceptions. So think about these 3 examples. I see a firefighter over there. I don't know anyone from Argentina. I have 2 good friends in my class. So try to have a guess here. Which of these sentences need the personal a and which don't? First, let's convert these into Spanish and then we will leave a gap for us to work through the examples. So we have veo blank un bombero por allí. No conozco blank nadie de Argentina and tengo blank dos buenos amigos en mi clase. Now in the first example, while we don't know the firefighter standing over there personally, we don't know their name, we've never met them before, they're still a very specific person. It's not, I need a firefighter in general because my house is on fire. It's, I see a specific firefighter over there. Now, since we're referring to a specific person, we need the personal a. So we have, veo a un bombero por allí. Veo a un bombero por allí. Next, I don't know anyone from Argentina. In this case, it might be tempting to think that there is no one specific in mind, so we shouldn't need the personal a, but there is an important exception here. We always need to use the personal a with pronouns for talking about people. Words like alguien, alguno, nadie, ninguno, and todos, which in English are someone, some, no one, none, and all. If you have a word like this as the object of your sentence, you'll very likely need the personal a. So for our second tricky example, we have No conozco a nadie de Argentina. No conozco a nadie de Argentina. Now, in our last tricky example, I have two good friends in my class. You may think this one would be really clear and easy, but there is another important exception. We never use the personal a with the verbs tener, haber, and ser. So for our last tricky example, we have tengo dos buenos amigos en mi clase. Tengo dos buenos amigos en mi clase. So even though they are specific friends with the verb tener, we don't need the personal a. And for an example with haber, imagine you were watching a race and someone asks you, do you know anyone in the race? You could say, there is a work colleague in the race. This in Spanish would be, hay un compañero de trabajo en la carrera. Hay un compañero de trabajo en la carrera. Okay, next, let's look at the part of the topic that seems to be the most challenging for students. Now, when it comes to asking who questions, sometimes we need the personal a and sometimes we don't. So we need to compare these two questions. Who do you want for the project? Who needs a partner for the project? Now, one of these questions has the personal a and the other doesn't. So can you guess? Now, taking the first question, who do you want for the project? Now, the way to figure this out is to think about the answer to this question. If someone asks you this, you might be answering the question like, I want Anna, or I want Luis for the project. So we know that I want Luis for the project would be quiero a Luis para el proyecto. Quiero a Luis para el proyecto. And since the answer has the personal a in it, this tells us that the question will have the personal a in it too. So who do you want for the project? ¿A quién quieres para el proyecto? ¿A quién quieres para el proyecto? In contrast, for the second question, who needs a partner for the project? Again, think about the possible answer to this question. So we would think in response to this, I need a partner, or maybe she needs a partner. Ella necesita un compañero. Ella necesita un compañero. Now, we don't have the personal a here because compañero is non-specific. So the question would be, who needs a partner for the project? This in Spanish. ¿Quién necesita un compañero para el proyecto? ¿Quién necesita un compañero para el proyecto? Next, we can consider the following example as an exception to an exception. Imagine a scene in a movie where the bully is going to make fun of someone and say something like, well, who do we have here? Now, if we're going to ask this question in Spanish, it might be tempting to think that we are going to use the verb tener, so we don't use the personal a, but that exception doesn't apply in questions. So who do you have? Who do we have? Who do they have? Are all going to have the personal a at the start of the question. So in Spanish, but who do we have here is going to be, pero a quién tenemos aquí? Pero a quién tenemos aquí?
Pero ¿a quién tenemos aquí?
Okay, I know this was a big topic, but if you want more content like this, remember to subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. In terms of follow-up topics that go really well with this one, I recommend you check out our video on saber versus conocer, where we also need to think carefully about the Spanish preposition a. I'll leave a link to that video here.